Welcome to MotoGP in 9 minutes. Here is what you need to know today. Major regulatory changes are coming to MotoGP in 2027, and the question every team in the paddock is asking right now is which manufacturer will adapt fastest and who will be left struggling at the starting line. The answer may already be emerging, and according to someone with direct access to the test track, Ducati is being tipped to hold a significant advantage from day one. Paul Esparo is a KTM test rider and analyst for Spanish broadcaster DAZN, giving him a unique perspective that goes far beyond typical television commentary. He has actually experienced the characteristics of the new generation 850 cubic centimeter motorcycles that have been tested throughout this season. The changes coming in 2027 are substantial. Engine capacity will drop from 1,000 cubic centimeters to 850 cubic centimeters. The maximum bore diameter reduces from 81 millimeters to 75 millimeters. Fuel tank capacity falls from 22 liters to 20 liters. Aerodynamics will be significantly reduced. Motorcycle weight drops from 157 kilograms to 153 kilograms. But here is what matters most. Ride height devices, pioneered by Ducati in 2018 and one of the foundations of their dominance, will be completely banned. That is a huge deal. For context, this is the first major regulation change since 2012, and switching tire suppliers alone has historically caused massive disruption. Michelin has been the sole supplier since 2016, but Pirelli takes over in 2027, having already supplied Moto2 and Moto3. The last tire supplier change in 2016, when Michelin replaced Bridgestone, proved significant for almost every manufacturer and rider on the grid. Add all these changes together, and you have a genuine reset moment for the championship. Why does Ducati have the edge? Esparo's assessment comes from direct experience testing the 850 cubic centimeter machine at Mugello, where almost every manufacturer participated except Yamaha. Ducati appeared dominant at that test, led by their test rider and current World Superbike Championship leader Nicolo Balga. Esparo himself participated in that test before being called up at short notice to replace Maverick Vinales on the current generation motorcycle at Silverstone. That gave him a fresh and direct comparison between the future 850 cubic centimeter machine and the 1,000 cubic centimeter bike still being used this season. His initial assessment was straightforward. At this very early stage, some manufacturers may start ahead of others. But once everyone reaches a similar level, something that may not happen until the second year of the new era, competition should become extremely close again. However, reaching that point will take time. Based on what Esparo has personally seen on track, Ducati's 850 cubic centimeter project is already showing much more convincing signs than those of its rivals. The main reason behind the optimism surrounding Ducati is not simply philosophy or clever engineering. It is about real-world data and racing experience accumulated through years of World Superbike competition. Esparo believes the 850 cubic centimeter motorcycle is in terms of character relatively similar to a Superbike. That means the change is not entirely unfamiliar territory for Ducati, which has spent years developing motorcycles with similar characteristics in production-based racing. In other words, Ducati already has a huge database of information on how to maximize the performance of a motorcycle with this kind of character. Other manufacturers without the same level of World Superbike involvement simply do not possess that advantage. According to Esparo, that edge could be particularly important in two specific areas: managing tires over a full race distance and maximizing one-lap performance in qualifying. Both factors are especially relevant because MotoGP will switch to Pirelli tires in 2027, and Pirelli is already the official tire supplier in World Superbike. Through their Panigale V4R racing program, Ducati has spent years gaining experience with the same tire manufacturer and similar tire characteristics that MotoGP will adopt. The numbers from Ducati in World Superbike this season are absolutely striking. Of the 24 races held so far, Ducati has won every single one. 23 victories through Nicolo Balga and 1 through Iker Leona. Even more impressively, Ducati has secured every podium position in 18 of those 24 races. That is an extraordinary level of dominance rarely seen in production-based motorcycle racing. By comparison, the other two manufacturers competing in MotoGP that also have World Superbike programs, Honda and Yamaha, have been far behind. Yamaha has yet to challenge for a podium position in World Superbike this season, while Honda's motorcycles have not finished higher than 10th place, with only one such result recorded. That significant performance gap in production-based racing adds real weight to the argument that Ducati's experience and data from World Superbike could translate into a genuine advantage when the 850 cubic centimeter era and Pirelli tires arrive in MotoGP. One of the most interesting aspects of Esparo's assessment comes from his own personal experience rather than theoretical analysis. He admitted that he was genuinely surprised by how difficult it was to return to KTM's current generation 1,000 cubic centimeter RC16 after spending significant time developing the next generation 850 cubic centimeter motorcycle. He described himself as feeling like a rookie throughout the Silverstone race weekend and clearly struggled to produce the same level of performance he had previously shown when replacing Vinales earlier in the season. That admission is significant because it comes from an experienced rider who has spent many years competing at the highest level of motorcycle racing, not from a young rider still learning how to handle a MotoGP machine. The adjustment proved that dramatic. From that experience, Esparo went even further with a bold claim. Riders moving up from Moto2 in 2027 could have a big advantage during the early stages of the new era. They would be adapting to the new MotoGP machines from a relatively familiar technical environment. Current MotoGP riders would have to transition from motorcycles producing close to 300 horsepower and running on completely different tire characteristics. The potential list of MotoGP rookies for the 2027 season is already looking promising. Alongside Balga, who is currently leading the World Superbike Championship and is also Ducati's test rider with significant mileage on the 850 cubic centimeter machine, several Moto2 riders are being considered for promotion next season. Among them are Hassan Guevara, Senna Ayaz, David Alonso, and Danny Holgado, a young rider who is also one of Esparo's protégés. Esparo even spoke directly with Holgado during a Moto2 practice session at Silverstone. His observation was quite surprising. He admitted that the riding style and performance data of the Moto2 riders appeared closer to what he was experiencing on the 850 cubic centimeter prototype than the characteristics of the current MotoGP machines. For him, that highlights just how dramatic the change facing the MotoGP grid will be. A transition he described as insane, with many established riders potentially struggling to adapt, while newcomers from Moto2 may already be accustomed to a similar overall character. MotoGP history suggests that major regulatory changes tend to reshape the competitive order, at least temporarily. The current regulations were introduced in 2012. While several leading riders have already begun expressing concerns about adapting to the characteristics of the new tires, Marc Marquez, for example, has reportedly raised concerns about the adjustment period that may be required once the grid switches fully to Pirelli. He has already tested the 850 cubic centimeter motorcycle and said that the most significant difference he experienced came from the tires rather than the engine or chassis. Meanwhile, former MotoGP world champion Dani Pedrosa has also highlighted the significance of the ride height device ban. Removing it could make races less predictable than they have been in recent seasons. Another technical detail relevant to Ducati's potential advantage is Pirelli's decision to retain the minimum tire pressure regulations that have frequently been controversial during the Michelin era. Although Pirelli believes its products are relatively less sensitive to pressure changes than Michelin tires, MotoGP